Real quick, just big thanks to Chris and his team for having me out here. I'm very fortunate enough. I speak all over the country at different seminars and stuff and perform better. I mean it when I say it is hands down the best event to be at. So I just want to thank them. And you guys are really in the top 5% of the industry just being here and bettering yourself for the weekend. So thank you guys for coming here. What we're going to chat a little bit about today is building a financially successful training gym and really honing in on your target market, which for all intents and purposes today we're going to talk about is going to be the fitness after 40 market. And we're going to get into my story here in a sec, but one thing I want to say, which I think is very true, is that I think you guys will find me as probably one of the more relatable speakers here. As Chris mentioned, I was an attendee here. Long Beach always has a special place in my heart. I came here probably for the first 10 years when I was in the fitness industry, coming to this exact event, kind of working my way up to be able to speak at it. So nothing that I do is super flashy, super fancy. I just got linked up with some really good mentors that kind of showed me the path of how to be successful, and really just took a couple actionable items from them to be able to get to where I'm at today. And so I think you guys will find that very relatable. Everything that I've done, you guys have the ability to do. Nothing I do is super flashy or crazy. But getting back to my start in the industry, this was actually how I started in the fitness industry. So I was fired from my first training job. I went to college for personal training, exercise science, like a lot of you guys did. Out of college, I got hired right away to work at a big training gym in Seattle. It was affiliated with Microsoft. I started there a week after I graduated from college. So right off the bat, it was a huge facility. It was about 40,000 square feet. There was over 100 trainers there. I was always one of the top grossing trainers there each month. Always did a pretty good job and was one of the better trainers there as far as just generating revenue and stuff like that. And then I'd been there for about 5 or 6 years. And due to some circumstances that were a little bit outside of my control, I was actually fired from that position. I don't have time to tell the whole story about being fired, but maybe we'll give a few drinks at the social tomorrow. I'll tell you guys how I got fired, but we can talk about that more later. But I do realize that there are a lot more, like being fired is a very first world problem. There's a lot more problems that people go through, but I will say, at that time, my wife who's here with me today, we had just got married. We had just bought a house. I was pretty financially secure there. And I'm not gonna lie, being fired kind of messed with my confidence. It messed with my self-worth a little bit. It was kind of out of nowhere. I didn't really know what I was gonna do next. But the reason I share this story is because being fired was one of the best things that actually could have ever happened to me. And as the dust kind of settled, I started to go into another training gym, and then I'm gonna talk about a little mentorship here that I went to as well. But I was comfortable enough at the gym that I was at there where financially I was doing okay. I kind of knew I wanted to do something else, but I didn't know exactly what that was. At that time, I didn't really have any ambitions to own a gym or do my own thing. And like I said, I was comfortable enough there that I probably would have stayed there for a long time. And I still have a lot of friends that are actually still there today. And being fired ended up having me open up my own world and kind of figure out what I wanted to do, and led me to opening up the gyms that I'm gonna talk to you guys about in a sec. So although it sucked at the time, being fired ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened to me. What it did lead me to was going to Jason Glass's mentorship. Some of you guys, he spoke in Chicago. Some of you guys might know Jason. We do a lot of golf fitness training at our gym. So Jason's pretty big in the TPI world. When I first started to get in the TPI world, I found out about Jason. I went to his mentorship, which at that point was in person in British Columbia, and we went down there. There was only about 7 of us there, and it was really a deep dive into like, okay, what are your 5-year, 10-year, just big dream, big goals, he would call them. And so when I was there, I still really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know that I wanted to open up my own gyms. Like I said, I knew there was something out there, but I didn't quite know what that was. And really what this did for me is it took those 7 people that were in the room with me to really give me the confidence to be able to open up my own facility. And by the end of that weekend, I remember driving out of there, all the people that were in the room with me were like, yeah, you should absolutely run your facility. You should also be speaking on this. Like, how are you not doing this? And I just didn't have the confidence to do it at that point. But I remember leaving that, calling up my brother who initially started the gym with me. We got the game plan in place and ended up opening up the gym a year later. But the reason I bring up this is because I would not have been able to do that if I didn't have the confidence of Jason and some of these other attendees to really take that step and take the leap to gym ownership. Fast forward 10 years later, we've been in business 10 years now. We have 2 facilities, Cutting Edge Fitness in Redmond and Issaquah, Washington. We also have a sports performance brand that we run in Kirkland. And then what Chris was hinting at, I had a gym in Montana that I owned with a business partner for several years, that the whole goal of that was to kind of build it up and sell it, and that's what we did. So I've been through the process of selling a gym as well. And the reason I share all that is because again, like I said, I think I'm more relatable than a lot of speakers from the sense of a lot of speakers will talk about they have their gym, it does all this money, all these marketing tools and business tactics and stuff work for them, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean it's always going to necessarily work in your demographic or your facility or your place as well. So I'm a big believer of teaching concepts versus teaching like this worked for me. So what we're going to go over today is more concepts that, in my opinion, can be really adapted anywhere, and I think the living proof of that is the fact that our gym in Seattle, we have 1 million people there. It's very tech affluent, very affluent area. And our gym in Montana, it's a city of 25,000 people, very rural area, not as affluent as Seattle. But we were able to take the same systems we have in Seattle and build that and run the same gym and be very successful in Montana. And so I really do believe that the concepts I'm going to share with you guys today, whether you're in a town of 20,000 or 1 million, are stuff that you can replicate really in any area. And that was the whole reason I agreed to be part of that gym in Montana, is because I knew we were going to open up multiple locations, and I wanted to be able to test kind of our systems and what we had in place in a totally different area and see if we can make it successful. And luckily we did. I picture my wife and kids down there. The reason I share that is because I think one kind of misnomer in the fitness industry is people are really afraid to talk about wanting to make money and actually making money in the fitness industry. I realize we all got in the industry to help people. I'm not going to argue with that. That's why I got in the industry. But I think it's also okay to want to make money in the fitness industry, to be financially successful, to be able to build a vehicle that allows you to build both personal and financial freedom. And I'm very fortunate. My wife can attest to this. I kind of have a house mom schedule. My normal schedule is I'll drop my kids off usually at school around 9 a.m. I'll go into work for a couple hours. I'll pick them up for school or come home when they get home from school and then do their sports, coach them and that kind of stuff. So I have a very, very good schedule. I'm very fortunate for that. But the reason I'm able to do that is because we have these systems in the gym in place that can run itself without me having to be there in the day-to-day, and why I'm able to take these trips. And my wife and I are continuing on from here to go hang out in Laguna for the weekend and stuff. So I am able to do that because we have the right systems in place in the gym where everything is not relying upon me. And I knew once I got into the gym owner world that the big reason why I wanted to do it was for my wife and kids and be able to build something that allowed me to be both financially, but also build personal freedom where I'm not tied to certain hours and I can spend time on what's most important to me, which is traveling with them and coaching my kids' sports and being able to do that, but also still making money in the industry. So I always share this slide. It's a little bit of cliche, but I am a firm believer of being the dumbest person in the room. I really believe that you have to seek out mentors to be able to succeed in this industry. I'm living proof of that. The only reason I've been successful in the industry is because I've had guys like Tom Plummer and Rick Mayo who spent a ton of time with me, mentoring me along the road and being able to kind of help me avoid some mistakes that they made and avoid mistakes that they see other gym owners make. And if you don't have a mentor right now, I highly suggest that you seek out mentors, and that's the only way you're going to be able to grow within the industry, and I'm living proof of that. And I think what mentors really do is, a lot of times being a gym owner, it can be kind of a lonely world. You're your own boss, and a lot of times you're your own worst enemy, and you kind of get in your own head. And I think what mentors really do is kind of help you step away from that, get out of being your own worst enemy and really be able to see what your true potential is. I really had no idea what my potential, my gyms are, what my speaking was, what any of that kind of stuff in my career was, until I was able to link up with these mentors and they could really help kind of tap my true potential. The common theme of what we want to talk about today is we're going to talk about mistakes versus inefficiencies. So some of the mistakes we're going to talk about are hopefully stuff that you guys have avoided so far. If you haven't, we can talk more about what we need to do for that. But what I noticed I'm lucky I consult for probably 50 or 60 gym owners across the nation, helping them build their gyms. And for most of them, what's really causing that gap of them getting to where they need to be is more inefficiencies than mistakes in their business. So we're going to talk about some common inefficiencies that I believe that anybody can improve to help really maximize your business. And now we're very fortunate that it used to be with training gyms and the style of gyms that we're talking about. Just to give reference, the gyms that I own, they're about 3,500 to 4,000 square feet. But for training gyms, you can go as low as 2,000 to 2,500 square feet up to obviously 6,000, 7,000 square feet. But as far as the training gym world goes, now the kind of bottom of the industry is doing about 30 to 40,000 a month. It used to be if you were doing 30 to 40,000 a month, you were one of the top grossing training gyms and you were doing really good. Now that's kind of the bare minimum to get in. And we see a ton of these gyms now doing $1 million a year. And to some of you guys, that might seem like a lot of money, but really just from getting from 20 to 30,000 a month to $1 million a year, there's just a couple minor tweaks you can make, some inefficiencies that you can help correct to get you to that point. It's not as unsustainable as you might think. So let's talk about mistakes first. Mistakes are driving the wrong way on the highway. If you are driving the wrong way going into oncoming traffic, that is a mistake. The equivalent to that in the gym industry is having bad partnerships, bad leases, not having the right concept, not understanding pricing or not charging enough for your services. Trainer stables, and what I mean by that is having one trainer that's training 40, 50, 60% of your clients, and that trainer leaves, and then you can have non-competes in place in some states, but even if you do, it's hard to avoid people leaving with clients. So if you have trainer stables where you're relying upon one or two trainers and they leave, your business could be out of business. And then not being funded enough, especially during those first 6 months of your business. So if you have made any of these mistakes or you're in the middle of making these mistakes, it's not totally, you can still get out of them. It's just a lot more challenging, and we'll have to talk a little bit more about that offline here if you are running into these. What most people run into, and the reason their gym is not doing the numbers that they want to do, is more inefficiencies. And those are maybe not knowing your target market, not understanding lead generation, not having a good sales process in place. You're the main product of the business, meaning you're doing most of the training hours. Maybe not a proper facility layout, although we don't see that one quite as much. Staffing, retention, not knowing your numbers, and then just having too high of or not understanding your expenses. So before we get into inefficiencies, let's talk about where we are at right now. And like I said, luckily, the one blessing coming out of COVID is now that during the COVID times, I know we're way past this, but going into COVID, there was about 22, depending on where you look, about 20 to 30% of gyms that closed down during that time. So there is a huge market now of people looking for training gyms, looking for the exclusivity, looking for individualization. And I've seen, as far as the people that I consult with in our gyms personally, I've seen the most growth in all these training gyms than we've ever seen in the last 2 or 3 years. So there is a ton of opportunity for growth within the training gym sector right now. And like I said, now we're to the point where it used to be if you were doing 30, 40,000 a month, you were one of the best gyms, grossing gyms in the area. Now that's kind of the bare minimum, and we're seeing a ton of people doing $1 million a year out of these training gyms. The other thing that helped, and some of this you might not be able to relate to as much as we do, we're in Seattle where it's a huge tech industry, so we have a ton of people working from home. So if you don't have a ton of people working from home, you can kind of ignore these next couple slides. But for us, it's been something that's been huge because working at home has really defined what people's third place are, especially now that they're not in the office. So this is the dream of working at home. You're great. You can pretend, you can go to the grocery store, you can hang out with your spouse, you can work out while you're on the phone, take Zoom calls from the bar, whatever. This is the reality of most people working from home. And so my wife works, she's in tech, she works from home. When our kids are out of school for the summer, this is kind of what her life looks like. So I'm sure a lot of people that work from home can relate to that. The reason why I brought it up is because now this whole working from home culture has really lost a lot of people's sense of community. People are a lot more lonely. So actually the working from home really helps our style of gyms to be able to create that community and create that third place and being able to get people out of their office or house and be able to go to a place where they want to hang out at. Really good example of that is my guy Frank Nash. This is his gym. It looks like a nightclub, but this is really his gym in Worcester, Mass. And this is what their lobby looks like. And the reason I show you these pictures is because hopefully with your training gym, one of the things that we can create is a community where people want to hang out, not only during the sessions, but after the sessions too, and really make it their third place and really feel like part of the community. This is kind of our version of that. We have these golf simulators in all of our locations that we have in Seattle. I'm not saying you guys necessarily have to invest in this or in Frank's, but you get the idea. You're trying to really create a community. We train a lot of golfers, so it makes sense for us to have these simulators where people can hang out and rent before or after their workouts. But the bottom line is you're really trying to create that community, and it's one of the advantages we can have in these small training gyms. As far as the business model goes, we're going to talk about semi-private training. I'm a big believer of semi-private training. I think it's the most profitable way to run a business in the industry. We're going to talk about it under the lens of 4 people per coach. I know a lot of people semi-private do 6 people per coach. I'm not really here to argue whether you want to do 4 or 6. I think you can deliver it either way. I know a lot of guys that are in the 6-on-1 world that can still deliver it and do well. We've always done 4-on-1. I like the 4-on-1 a little bit better than 6-on-1 because I think we can individualize it and make it a little bit more intimate than we can if we have 6 people. And so when I'm talking about our semi-private, it's going to be 4-on-1, but I recognize some other gyms might do 6-on-1. That's totally fine. But all the business stuff we're going to talk today is under the lens of semi-private training. A lot of people ask me about one-on-one. You can still do one-on-one training. There's nothing wrong with one-on-one training. I would say training gyms our size that we're talking about, you could still do about 10 to 20% of your revenue in one-on-one. That's totally fine. But most of the sweet spot of your revenue and how you're going to grow this business is going to be the semi-private training, which is probably going to be 80 to 90% of your membership base. This is an inefficiency that I see a lot. I was very lucky that from day one, Rick and Tom kind of coached me out of this, where I was not the main product of the business. This can be really hard for trainers. Trainers really don't like to let other people train clients, and they want to control all the stuff. And I totally get that. But what it really boils down to is, are you working on your business or are you working in your business? And I think Tim mentioned this in his talk as well. If you're training 40, 50, 60 hours a week, I would argue that you don't really have a business, you just created a job for yourself. So if you're the one that is doing all the hours, it's gonna be really hard to scale and grow a business. You're really just doing the job of a trainer. So you can argue what that number is. I think for most gym owners, it needs to be under probably 20 hours a week as far as training clients goes, to be able to really grow and be able to make the business scalable. I don't really train any clients at all anymore. It's not because I don't like training clients anymore. It's just because I noticed as our businesses started to grow and we started to open up multiple locations, that my time was going to be better served on developing our staff and marketing and finances and kind of all the day-to-day operational stuff versus training actual clients. So that's me, but I'm not saying you can't train clients at all, but I will say there's an inverse correlation to how much you can grow your business to how much time you're spending as the tacticianer of your business, because you just truly don't have time to work on the business if you're the one that is working in the business 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week. So it can be very hard to be able to grow the business if you're stuck in that world. So because of that, I'm a big believer of delegating to your team. I'm a true believer if somebody can do something 80, 90% as well as you can do it, you should be able to delegate it. And it also gives your team ownership of different processes, allows them to grow more within the business when you're passing along certain stuff to them. I'll throw a couple books stuff out here. This is a book I really like called The 6 Types of Working Geniuses. It's a lot like the Myers-Briggs, like all the different personality assessments and stuff like that. But what's really cool about this one is it basically gives you 2 geniuses, like 2 things that or 2 things that you individually are innately good at, 2 things that you're kind of in the middle, and maybe 2 things that you're not as good at, that if you spend a lot of time doing that, you're probably going to be really, really frustrated. And what was eye-opening with me about this book is being a small business owner. If you see Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, it's really about putting the people in the right seats on the bus within the business. People are going to have different strengths, whether it's marketing or sales or training or whatever, but you have to find those right seats for the people on the bus of the business for it to be successful. And the big take home for me with this book was that if you have people where they have their 2 frustrations and they're spending most of their week working on items that are going to highlight those frustrations that they're not naturally good at, they're probably going to get burned out. They're not going to enjoy the work they're doing, and it might be an employee that you end up losing down the road. So I think this does a really good job of just kind of figuring out within your team, what are people's strengths, what are their weaknesses. Everybody's going to have to do some stuff that they don't enjoy or not as good at. But if you can highlight 80 to 90% of their week working within their strengths and their geniuses versus their frustrations, you can have a lot more successful business and employees that actually want to be there and continue to work. So we're going to talk real quick. We could do, honestly, a whole hour and a half on staffing. Staffing is probably obviously the most challenging part of owning a gym sometimes. I know a lot of you have been in this situation. I would probably have 20 locations if I just had awesome staff to run every single facility, because I think the business part of it's pretty easy. It's finding the right person to run and manage these facilities. But where I do think we miss the boat in the fitness industry is we don't pay our trainers enough. And then we also don't give them enough growth potential to want to stay and have something to work towards in the business. And I hate putting a bunch of texts on slide, but I think this is a good example of what the average fitness industry looks like. Hopefully you're paying people more than $20 an hour, but if you're not, it's kind of what it looks like. Like, come home, you got to figure out what does a 1-bedroom go for in your area for your trainers. What is car payment? What are costs? How much does it cost to live in your area, which in Seattle is quite a bit. And then I think Daniel Pink said it good in one of his books, we pay people just enough for our employees to hate us. So I am a big believer in paying people what they're worth, paying more than most people are going to pay within the industry, paying more than what most gyms are going to pay in your area, because that's the only way you're going to be able to attract and retain talent. And the main way that we do that is being able to generate obviously enough revenue. And the way that we do that, which we'll talk a little bit more, is our return per client, which means what's our average membership that they're paying each month. For us in Seattle, it's about $370 a month is our average membership per client. If you're in a little bit more rural area, maybe it's more like when we were in Montana, like $250 to $300 a month. But your goal for any type of training gym should be at least $300 per member per month. The benefit of that too is that means if I have, $300 per member, I probably only need somewhere between 150 to 200 total members to have a gym that is doing very, very well revenue-wise versus if I'm at a 24 Hour Fitness or an Orange Theory or an F45. A lot of times with their price points, you need 5, 6, 7, 800 members to be able to be profitable and financially successful during those. So the way that we're able to pay our staff more is to have that high return per client and have our average membership be somewhere between $350 to $400 a month. This is also some information I got from a podcast that I just thought was very good as far as employee retention. Really, this is true not just in the fitness industry, it's true within any type of business. These three things are very important to be able to retain employees. The first thing is obviously you have to be known and take interest in their lives. So this is something that I've changed a lot over the last couple of years. Like I really try to spend a lot of my day now sitting down with our staff, learning more about them, figuring out what kind of stuff they like, how can I be engaged with them, how can I be a better boss, a better leader. And I think that goes a long way. The second step is letting them know that their job matters to somebody. Luckily in the fitness industry, that's probably easier than any other industry, that I think all of our staff and trainers know that their job and what they're doing matters to people and we're changing people's lives. So that one's pretty easy to be able to do in our industry. And the third one, which seems pretty obvious, but I think a lot of gym owners and managers miss the boat, is they have to have some type of assessment. Are they doing a good job? With us, it's at minimum quarterly, sometimes 6 months, reviews of, okay, these are the KPIs, these are what we're looking, this is the member feedback, this is the survey we set out, here's the response we got from members. But you have to be able to assess them and know if they're doing a good job or not as an employee. Okay, if you guys take one picture or you keep one slide or you focus on one slide, this is the slide right here. Instead of writing a 50-page business plan, this is your business plan right here. This is the easiest way to run a business. This is what Tom Plummer taught me. This is how I worked my way through owning a business. This is the same thing Rick did. This is what any consulting client I work with, this is where we start. So the first thing, and we'll go through these step by step, is do we have the right concept in place? If we do, then do we have enough leads? Can we convert those leads into trials? And then from the trials, can we convert 70% of those to regular clients? And then are we creating a high average per sale, which we just talked about? Do we have a $350 to $400 average membership? And then can we retain, it says 60 in parentheses because that's about the bare minimum. And if you're in a bigger box type of mainstream gym, it might be closer to 60%. Hopefully in the training gyms, it's closer to 70, 80%. But can you retain at least 70 to 80% of those members from a year-to-year basis? So as we dive into that, I always joke around that I think running a business is pretty easy, especially if you run it by the numbers. Now, like I said, it can be challenging with staffing and different stuff like that. But I honestly believe that if you know your numbers and you react to them daily, monthly, yearly, that running a business is actually pretty easy, pretty straightforward. The reason I put, some of you guys might be too young to remember the movie The Hangover, but the reason I put that up there is because every time I first talk with trainers about numbers, that is what they look like. They hate numbers. They got into training because they didn't want anything to do with math. And that's kind of what they look like when we start to talk about numbers. But I am a big believer, if you're going to be a gym owner and you're going to grow your business, or even if you're a higher end manager at a club, you really need to know your numbers and be able to react to those on a, like I said, daily, monthly, yearly basis. And really what we're talking about with numbers at the end of the day, our goal with any style of training gym should be 30% net profit. Now I know we talked about doing $1 million a year in revenue. That's awesome. But I also know some gym owners that do $1 million a year in revenue and also have $1 million a year in expenses. So if you're doing that, your gym's probably not going to be super successful. So what we're really trying to do is try to get at least 30% net profit at these training gyms. If you're hitting that, you're going to be financially in a good place. The 30% net profit is also a great number to know if you're ready to open up a second facility. Some of you may always just have one facility, and that's totally fine. But if you are trying to open up multiple facilities, a good thing to look at is if your gym can do 30% net profit for 6 months in a row, it means you've probably proven out the concept and you're probably ready to open up another location if you choose to do that. But if you're not doing at least 30% net profit for 6 months in a row, you have no business opening up another facility before you get that dialed in. So that's kind of the big number we're chasing as far as finances go, but also if you're looking to open up multiple facilities. One inefficiency we see with that is numbers really start from your pricing. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people not charging enough for their services, not charging what they're worth. And if you don't have your pricing dialed in from day one, it can be really challenging to grow the business. And the other side of that is selling your memberships with old school tools. And so hopefully a lot of you guys aren't doing this anymore, but selling 5-packs and 10-packs and 40-packs and discounting your services if they buy a 100-pack versus a 20-pack. That can be a really challenging way to run a business because it's not very sustainable income. For us, all of our memberships or 99% of our members are on 12-month memberships. We do have a month-to-month option, but regardless, everything is billed monthly and it's billed the same time each month for the client. We don't do any type of packages or anything like that. We don't really have time to go over like the benefits of 12-month versus month-to-month and that kind of stuff. A lot of people have gone away from the 12-month because the month-to-month is easier to sell. We've been doing the 12-month memberships for 10 years now, and it's been very beneficial for us. So that's what we do. But regardless, there needs to be a monthly reoccurring payment happening. It can't be something where you're relying on somebody to buy another 20-pack or 30-pack or 40-pack. And I'm a big believer of charging what you're worth as well. And I hate deals and discounts because I think over time it really lowers the perception of the value of your business, and it really is challenging to have that $350 to $400 average return per member if you're always, oh, I'm going to give this client a discount, or I got to give this client a discount, or we're doing these deals or whatever. So I'm not a big believer of giving those type of discounts or doing anything based off of that, because at the end of the day, price is your brand. And I'm okay with being the highest priced gym in the area. In fact, usually I want to be the highest priced gym in the area because a lot of people are going to be able to associate that, whether it's right or wrong, with the value of your business. And for our type of clients that we're attracting that are 40 to 70 years old, that are tech CEOs and making a lot of money, like they want to be at the gym that is the place where it's the highest price point and you're getting the most value out of it and it's the place to be. And so I'm okay being the highest priced gym in the area, and I'd rather be that than be at the bottom of the price point and be fighting with other gyms about, okay, they're 150, so I got to go to 140, and they're 140, and I got to go to 130, and then you get in a price war, and then that's how you end up going out of business. So I'm a big believer in price is your brand, and it's okay to be the highest priced gym in your area as long as obviously what you're delivering matches that price point as well. You have to be good at what you're doing as well. You can't just be the highest priced gym and not know what you're doing. But so as we go back to the slide, now we're going to talk a little bit more about the lead portion of it. So are we generating enough leads? Concept first. We'll go into leads in a sec. We're going to go into the concept first. I think what the biggest mistake people make is you get out of school, you're opening up your gym, you want to make this awesome gym that you want to go train at as a 25 or 20 or 25-year-old person, which is awesome. But chances are the clientele that you're trying to attract is not the same as you and does not want to go to a gym that 25-year-old guys are working at it. So I really believe in building a gym that is going to be for your targeted demographic, and for us, where we're making the most return per client and make the most money is going to be that fitness after 40 client typically. But where a lot of people make mistakes is they design gyms based off what they like, especially at a younger age, versus designing it for your ideal target demographic. The other mistake a lot of people make is, this is something we had to learn kind of early on, is you can't be a one-size-fits-all for everybody. Your gym is not going to be for everybody. You have to figure out what your targeted market is. For us, it's golf fitness and it's fitness after 40. Those are the two lanes that we stay in, and that's what we want to be the best at in our area. We're not trying to attract people that are necessarily going to be 25 and going to CrossFit and wanting to do the workout of the day. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just not the type of people that we're trying to attract. So I think you really have to understand, what is your demographic? You can't try to be a one-size-fits-all solution for everybody in your area. You have to figure out what your clientele is and how you're going to be able to build a gym off of that. And I think this is very, very true. I think successful gyms of the future are going to start with a very specific targeted demographic in mind and create the gym around that. And that's how you're going to be successful, is being able to dial in that one target demographic and then create the facility from there. And for us, kind of, again, going into the theme of this talk with the fitness after 40 is, if you look at just some general stats here, the top 35% of people in the country make 100 grand or more. This is obviously area dependent, but top 21% of the people in the country make 150 grand or more. Where do these people work out? What kind of gyms do they work out at? They're typically not going to want to go to an Orange Theory, an F45, Barry's boot camp, that kind of stuff. They're going to want something that's a little bit more individualized to them, a little more exclusive, a little more targeted. And these are the gyms that we're trying to build. We're very lucky that a lot of our members are CEOs, people that are very successful in the tech world, people that are very affluent and make enough money to afford our services, but we're really trying to design a gym around that type of clientele and that type of demographic. And the reason I put 35 to 55 and 40 plus is because it depends how you want to market it. A lot of gyms, when you're chasing this demographic, you can just go fitness after 40, and that's totally fine because a lot of people in your area aren't doing fitness after 40, so that's a great way to do it. We sometimes do a little bit, as far as our ads go, we'll demographic as low as like 35 because we have a lot of tech people in our area that are 34, 35, 36 that make $300,000-$400,000 a year at Microsoft or Google or GoDaddy or wherever that may be. And so if you're in an area where you're just trying to attract, the right demographic, you can definitely go fitness after 40, but it's going to be somewhere between kind of that 35 to 65 demographic as far as the people that we're trying to attract. And it's actually one of the most rapidly growing segments in the business, and it's one of the most underserved parts of the business as well. This is another good stat about that is people over 50 account for over half of consumer spending right now in the US. So again, where do these type of people work out that have the disposable income? Where are going to be the gyms that they look to target at? And that's what we're trying to build. I think with those type of people, community is key, but really this attraction for them is the support. Where do they get kind of the individualized solutions, being able to work with a coach, being able to be in an intimate environment that is really concentrated on them, not going to a class where there's 30 people and they get kind of lost in the shuffle. The main attraction for these people that make a lot of money that want to find these type of gyms is going to be the support that you're giving them. And then secondary to that, you also have to have a great community as well. This is just one of our coaches training here, but I always get questions like, how do you guys write your programming software? We use Bridge for all of our stuff. I'm happy to talk to you guys more about that if you want to know more about it. But really for us with the semi-private training, it still needs to feel very individualized and it needs to feel very specific to the client. And this was the type of support that we're talking about where the client really needs to feel supported. It's all about them. It's just kind of what it looks like in our facilities there. And then the one challenging thing, which I will be transparent about with the semi-private model, is sometimes it can be hard to still build a good community with them. What F45 and CrossFit and Orange Theory and all those gyms do really, really well, which is true, is they have high energy, they build really good communities. People want to be there because they have 20, 30 people in a class. If you're running a semi-private gym and you only have 4 or 8 people in per hour, sometimes it can be hard to manufacture that energy and manufacture that community like people do at Orange Theory and F45 and stuff like that. So the way that we kind of try to do that, and this is actually taken from one of our sessions, is we still within different parts of the workout try to build in stuff with people doing stuff together, whether it's during the core work or the finisher, whatever that may be, and get them to know each other. And the people that, a lot of our people are training at the same time, so we want to get them to know each other, build community, build relationships within the workouts. But you have to have some type of way to build community, and sometimes that can be tougher with the semi-private. If you just have 4 people at 4 different corners of the gym and they never talk throughout the whole hour, that can be sometimes dragging on the community and energy of the gym. So that is the one drawback of semi-private, is that you have to really do a good job of creating that community and energy with 4 or 8 people in at a time versus 30 people. So there's ways to do that, but you have to be aware of that obviously as you're building these gyms. This is what like a normal training segment would look like within our facility. A lot of times we don't run 3 groups, we'll run 2 most spots. We do run 3 every once in a while, but since we're doing 4 people per coach, these are kind of what our semi-private pods would look like. We'll probably have 2 of these going at a time. You could do these in as small as 300 square feet. So if you're doing semi-private, you could theoretically have 3 different coaches coaching 4 people in the semi-private model with the floor layout. And they're kind of small gyms within the gym. And Perform Better has some really cool equipment stuff. And I'm not just saying this because they're having me be here, but this is who we get all of our equipment through. This is like what one of those pods would look like, where it's really easy to train 4 people within that spot. These have the old school kind of rack looks. The newer one that they came up, which is really cool, which we use with our golfers sometimes, is having these cable systems that are within the rack there and having all the storage and stuff in there. If you guys have any questions about the layout of these semi-private pods, I'm sure Chris or Amber or anybody can answer questions about that for you guys. But just a lot of people ask us, like, what does it look like, the semi-private model within the gym? And this is what those semi-private pods would look like. Okay, now as we work our way down and we talk about lead generation next, obviously we could do a whole 90-minute talk on lead generation. We don't have time to do that today, so we're going to briefly kind of go through it. But I am a big believer right now of being very aggressive in your marketing. I do believe right now is the best time to be able to grow these training gyms. Like I said, in the last 3 to 4 years, my gyms and other gyms that I consult, we've seen the most growth we've ever seen at these training gyms. So I am a big believer. There's a lot of people that are still kind of trying to get back into the flow of working out after COVID and trying to find a spot that they belong to. And I'm a big believer in trying to be aggressive with your marketing right now. One thing you have to be aware of with that, though, is obviously the purpose of marketing is getting leads through the door, but you also need to be getting qualified leads through the door. And that can be challenging. Obviously, it used to be where you could just go on Facebook, you could throw up any type of ad 4 or 5 years ago and get a bunch of leads just off that. That's a lot more challenging with how things are ran with Facebook and other algorithm stuff online now. So you really have to be able to diversify your marketing, which we're going to talk about here in a sec. And I'm a big believer of having a dedicated marketing person. If you're trying to really scale and grow your gym, you should have somebody that's dedicated to probably at least 20 hours a week working on the marketing, lead generation, lead follow-up side of things. If you as the gym owner are the only one doing it, sometimes that can be challenging to be able to continue to grow. And I'm a big believer in diversifying your marketing. Like I said, it used to be pretty easy just to have one of these things going. Now I'm a big believer of having like 4 or 5 of these things going, because one month it might be working, the next month it might not be working. So you kind of have to diversify. We do a lot of Google ads. Those have been very successful. We still do some stuff on Facebook because our demographic is on Facebook. So that can be beneficial, but it's a little more challenging. Instagram, obviously, email marketing is huge. If you're not doing email marketing, I'd highly would recommend that. And then obviously just old school grassroots marketing, get out in the community, partnering with chiropractors or certain shops where your clients might go, just working with businesses that your clients would want to visit and be part of as well. We work with a lot of country clubs in our area to do a lot of the golf fitness stuff. That's where a lot of our members go from. But getting out in your area, being part of the community and being able to do some of the grassroots marketing as well. Bottom line is, though, you have to have at least 3 or 4 different marketing tracks going each month, because chances of one of them not working is going to be high, and then you go to the next one and you have to be able to diversify that. These are just some examples. Like, I think one of the easiest thing you could do, and if you look at any of our social media on the gyms that I run, we have a lot of client testimonials. I think that's the easiest way to market, is let your clients tell the story. At the end of the day, there's really only 3 ways you're going to be able to market. It's going to be social proof, it's going to be exposure, and it's going to be discounts. So hopefully you're not marketing off discounts. That attracts the wrong type of clients. That's not the way we want to market. But social proof and exposure are great ways to market, and I'm a big believer of letting your clients tell the story. The reason I highlighted those, because we don't do the lead magnet stuff as much anymore. We'll still have those go every once in a while, like download our ebook and then you can get people's email and kind of slow drip marketing campaign. That stuff's okay, but we don't do those quite as much anymore. What we do is a lot of the milestone workout pictures of our members. We do a lot of client testimonials. We do a lot of fitness after 40 tips. We do a thing called KE on the map, where people go and take a picture with our logo somewhere when they're on vacation. Just really let our clients showcase our clients, let them tell the story of the marketing. One of the worst mistakes I see trainers and stuff make, again, is making the marketing all about them. Nobody wants to see you shirtless working out or eating chicken out of a Tupperware or whatever we do as trainers that we think is a good idea to market. It's not. So let your clients tell the story, and really when people are scrolling through and they're getting exposed to your marketing, they want to see people that look like them, get results like them, feel like them, that kind of stuff. You don't want a 25-year-old person being in your videos. You're trying to target people that are over 40. So those are just some very basic stuff you can do. I think nutrition and blog posts are still very valuable, but we only do those maybe once or twice a month, just to kind of keep up with our SEO, not quite as much as we used to do them. If you're not doing email, I really think email marketing is a very valuable form of marketing to still be able to do. Obviously, our clients being in tech are on email all the time. But here's a very simple pattern you can follow for email marketing. We'll include all of our members, past members. We use constant contact, so we'll have lists of leads, trials, old members, making sure you have them organized. But we do it around twice a week. Obviously, you have to have an ad, an opt-out button. But our main goal with the email is just to educate, guide, and we're not really pitching it all during the emails. We're just giving them tips. You may at the bottom of your email have a soft like, hey, if you want to check us out, click this link or whatever, but that shouldn't be the main message of all of your emails going out to these people, is to pitch them and sell them on everything. We'll mention a lot of referrals during our emails too. That's a great way that we can jump up referrals and let people know what our referral campaigns are that we have in place. If people refer somebody, you get X. Really though, with our marketing, what it boils down to is I would say a majority of our members that have come in are people that are actually kind of afraid to go in gyms or maybe haven't been in gyms as much before. Again, we're not trying to market to the 25-year-old person that loves working out and wants to be at CrossFit workouts 6 days a week. We're more marketing to people that feel like this, that they don't fit in, they've failed at other gyms they've tried, maybe they feel like they're too old to work out, there's nobody else like them. They feel like they're going to get laughed at. Nobody's there to help me. These are a lot of the clients that we're trying to market to and that we're trying to attract. And at the end of the day, we're trying to market to that client that feel like they don't fit in anywhere else, that's going to fit in with us and feel part of a community and feel the individualization of what we're trying to run. Again, we're not trying to market to the people that love working out 6 days a week. It's more about the people that haven't found a spot where they can fit in. This is a cool campaign one of the guys in New York runs that I thought was pretty cool as far as the marketing, just showing the type of clientele that they're trying to attract. This is our version of this. This is at our gym and some of our clients there as well. But really, we're just trying to market to people that want to find a place to be able to fit in and a place where they feel welcomed. And it also helps that they also make a lot of money and can afford our services. But okay, when we talk about marketing, I threw this in there because I get asked this question probably more than any as far as marketing goes is, do we outsource it? Do we do it ourselves? I've honestly changed my tune on this. When we first opened up, I was the guy that was building lead pages and ClickFunnels and all that kind of stuff, which was great because now I know how to do it, but it was also dumb because it was a big waste of time for me to be able to do that. So if you guys haven't read the book, there's a great book called Who Not How, which is a book that's about finding the who and the person that is better at doing that stuff than you are and paying them to do it so that you don't have to do it, and then being able to maximize their skill set. So I will be fully transparent that a lot of our marketing that we do is done by outside companies. Now, that being said, I still have a big thumbprint on it. They will send me previews of this is the ad we're running, this is what we're doing. So that I want to make sure our brand and our images are controlled and stuff like that. But I am no longer the one that is building the lead pages and SEO and ads and all that kind of stuff. We have people that do that for us. And I think as far as whether you're trying to figure out, okay, maybe you have a limited budget and you don't have the ability to hire somebody for everything in marketing, what stuff should you hire? What kind of stuff would you own? I'm a big believer of hiring somebody for your website and your SEO stuff. I would not want to be the person as a trainer trying to build your own website and figure out SEO and all that kind of stuff. I think a mistake that people make with websites is they make it friendly to their clients, and this is what my clients want, but your website should be all about marketing. It should be anybody that comes to your website that's never seen you before. How do they sign up? How do they get more information? How do you get them in the door for a consultation? That's really all your website should be for. So I am a big believer of having somebody be able to do the website stuff for you because they're going to understand that a lot better than you are and be able to do all the SEO and stuff that comes along with that. We already talked about this, but a big mistake that people make as far as the marketing inefficiencies is just not knowing how to market to the fitness after 40 crowd. This is a great ad that just kind of like a more classy ad that you would put out. But again, a lot of people, hopefully not as much anymore, but will make the mistake of featuring the marketing of them and 25-year-olds working out, like I said, shirtless and that kind of stuff. And that's definitely not going to attract the clients that we're wanting in this fitness after 40 crowd. Okay, so as we continue to work our way through there, now we're going to chat a little bit more about how do we convert these leads into a trial process. So I'm a big believer of having a trial. I know a lot of gyms will try to sign people up from day one, and there's people that are successful doing that. That's not what we do. Because we are signing people up on 12-month memberships, we have them do some type of trial first to experience us before we sign them up for a regular membership. Trial could be a 10-day, 15-day, 21-day, 6-week, whatever you're running. On the low end, our goal for the trial conversion is 60%. Ideally, it's closer to 70%. And on any given month, our goal is to try to get around 20 trials per month based off all the marketing stuff we're doing. If we convert 60% of that, that means we're getting 12 new signups a month. I would say the biggest thing with sales and the biggest thing with this trial offer is that there has to be a ton of follow-up. That has to be built into within your process. A lot of times people aren't going to buy after the first workout. It might be after the third time they're in or the fourth time they're in or the fifth email you send them or whatever. People just need to be reminded and need to be kind of engaged with during that trial process. You really have to make sure that follow-up is the key during that. And then, in my opinion, what trial memberships really do, trial memberships or exposure marketing, whatever you want to call it, is it's going to drive up the price you can charge from member because the trial shifts the emphasis to customer service, to the experience and proves what the business is worth. We always say, it's a little bit cliche, but to know us is to love us. I believe if somebody can try us out for 30 days, experience our staff, experience our programming, experience our culture, that they're going to be able to sign up and they're going to have no problem paying $300, $400, $500, $600 a month for whatever we're charging. So I'm a big believer of having the trial stuff. And I know there's some question stuff we'll do, though. We'll go questions at the end just so we can fly through this stuff. But if you don't have some type of trial, I would recommend putting that in because you really want people to experience what you're doing instead of trying. And it also comes out as if you're not trying to sell them on day one like every other gym is, it's a little bit better way to do it too, because a lot of these people are coming in like they try to get signed up for a membership day one at 24-Hour Fitness and they feel like they're getting tricked into a membership and that kind of stuff. And that's the exact opposite of what we want, right? And follow up the key. I always joke around that this is my wife too, because she's the queen of having like 40 different things in her Amazon cart, like a lot of people have, because it's just, we're very indecisive by nature. People are always, oh, should I buy that? Should I not do this? Should I do it? So it just hammers home the idea of that follow-up is the key during the trial process. Like you have to, whoever your salesperson is, there has to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different touch points built in within the trial process to be able to get that person to convert to a regular membership. Even if they love it and they have a great experience day one, they still are probably going to wait till the second or third workout. So the last thing you can do is have them do a workout and then not follow up them for a week and then try to get them back in and signed up. So there's got to be a bunch of follow up and touch points built in. That can be automated too. Obviously now that's an option to have that automated too. I'm a believer of doing some of it in person as well, but either way, you have to have follow-up built into that process. One inefficiency I think that a lot of gym owners do is having their young 20-something-year-old trainers sell. If you have younger trainers, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've had this discussion with some of our coaches and stuff before, and when you're 20, 22, 23, 24, asking a member to spend $400 or $500 a month to you probably seems like a ton of money, and maybe you're a little bit afraid of the money and a little bit afraid to ask them to spend $400 or $500 a month. So I'm a big believer of having somebody in the sales role that's a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more experienced, isn't gonna, kind of understands money and isn't going to be afraid to ask somebody for $400 a month, and it's not going to seem like a ton of money to them. So I'm not saying you can't have your trainer sell. Sometimes if you're just limited on staff, that's just is what it is, and you have to be able to do that. But I'm a big believer of having somebody a little bit more kind of seasoned and educated and isn't afraid of money during that sales process. And to be totally transparent, a lot of times females do a lot better in that role than males do. They're just a little bit more nurturing and kind of authentic by nature. And so sometimes having somebody that's 30, 35, 40-year-old female in that sales role can be the best person for it. As we continue to work our way through our business plan here, next we're going to talk, we kind of are skipping over the higher average per sale because we already talked about that. Our goal is to get to that $350 to $400 per month mark. So now we're going to go a little bit more into the retention side of things. And retention is going to be one of the biggest benefits and biggest advantages we can have over big box gyms. And the reason being is if you look at big box gyms or you look at even like group class gyms like Orange Theory, F45, Barry's Boot Camp, that kind of stuff, on average, their retention is only going to be about 90% per month. So no matter what they do, they're going to lose 10% of their members per month. If anybody is here at Orange Theory and works for them, I apologize. We can discuss those numbers afterwards. I said this same number last year, and some guy was like, actually, it's 9.7%, not 10%. I work at Orange Theory. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, my bad, but we get it. So the around average number for group class gyms is going to be about 90%, meaning they're losing 10% of their members per month. At a good training gym, you should be at 2 to 3% per month. So that means if I'm doing a good job, I have 100 members, I can expect to lose 2 to 3 per month because of they haven't been in a while, or they move, or financially something happens, or whatever. But if you look at 2 to 3% per month versus 10% a month, that's a huge difference. So if you're losing 10% of your members each month at a big group class gym, that means I have to sign up, if I have 100 members, I have to sign up 10 new members every month just to break even on the people that I'm losing. Versus if I'm at a training gym and I only lose 2 to 3 members per month, and then I sign up, let's say, even just 6 new members for the month, I just netted 3 to 4 new members. If they're each spending $300 a month, I just grew my receivable base by $1,500 to $2,000 a month because my retention is very low and I only need to sign up 6 or 7 new clients versus the bigger gyms where we're losing 10% of those people. So the reason I say all that is because retention is a huge tool and something that can be very beneficial and work in our advantage in these training gyms versus some of the bigger box gyms and or the group class gyms. So our goal minimum is always 3%. So we want to retain 97% of our members. So again, the easy math on that would be if I have 100 members, I can expect to lose 3 per month. That would be a normal, doing a good job with training gyms, normal retention number. Obviously, people are going to leave because they move or something happens financially or they haven't been in a while. But if you can keep that number around 3% per month, it's a lot more doable to be able to grow and scale these gyms that we're talking about. There's a lot of different things to go into retention. We talked about this at the beginning. And unfortunately, I have seen a lot of people lose their businesses because of this, because they have trainer stables where 1 or 2 trainers are training 50, 60% of their members. That trainer leaves. Again, like I said, Washington, like we can't really have non-competes. You can have non-solicitations. State by state, it's different, but at the end of the day, it's pretty hard to stop somebody from leaving and taking members with them. So you really have to be able to protect yourself from that because, like I said, that can be a big detriment. You can lose your business over that if half the people leave because a trainer leaves. One thing we do to mitigate that, which is a little bit controversial, and I always get people kind of be like, I can't believe you do that, is we don't put our coach's name on the schedule. So we just have the schedule semi-private. You show up, whatever coach you're working with is going to have your program ready to go. Now, granted, we only have typically maybe 5 coaches at each location, so it's not like they're working with somebody different every time. But from our consultation process at the very beginning, we are pitching the idea of working with a team of coaches versus working with an individual coach. Because the business side of that is if one of my coaches leaves, I don't want 40 or 50 people to leave with them. I want to be able to seamlessly plug in a different coach and not lose 30 members that month. So that's the business reason why we do it. I also honestly, genuinely believe that people tend to get a little bit better results sometimes working with a team of coaches than just one coach, especially over the long term. Like we all know if you're training the same client for 5 years in a row, twice a week, they become a really good friend. Maybe you're not pushing them as much. There's more of a friend dynamic versus actually a trainer dynamic. And so I actually believe people get a little bit better results, but that's a different story. But regardless, you have to set yourself up within your gym to not have these trainer stables going on. If you have one trainer doing 50, 60% of your clientele, you're really cooking with gas there, and it could really cost you your business down the line if they leave and you lose 30 to 40 members in a month. That can be very challenging. So I would recommend having some system in place where it's more of a team of trainers versus working with an individual trainer. So retention, let's talk about why do people leave, why do people stay? Some of this stuff is obvious, some of it is maybe not so obvious. Why do people leave gyms? I think a lot of people don't realize this, but sometimes it's honestly because your place is dirty and it's not where people that are spending $400 a month want to hang out at. So I think it's really important to have your gym be presentable, be clean, be welcoming, have a good environment. Declining accents, that's an obvious one. We'll talk about that in a sec. People obviously coming in less. If you're just relying upon limited coaches and people just can't get into the schedule they want because you don't have enough coaches hired, that can obviously be an issue. Repetition fatigue, which we'll talk about in a sec, and then obviously the failure from them from the beginning to be able to establish or join the community, and then just not having the right kind of coaches in place. Why do people stay? It's because you respect the money. And this is a great way to look at it, especially this type of clientele that are spending $500 a month at your gym, is you could have joined any gym and paid anywhere in town. I picked you, earn it. And that's how it should be. That's how all the gyms should look at it, is you have to earn these people's business. You have to give them a reason to spend $400 a month at your facility. And if you're not, people are going to leave. So repetition fatigue, this is something I didn't really necessarily start thinking about till a couple years into business. And really what repetition fatigue is people coming in and just doing the same thing. So they come in, they see the same colors on the wall, the same logo. Obviously, I know you guys are all at the high end of programming. You understand how to program clients or you wouldn't be here. So it's not necessarily they're doing the same workout every time, but they come in, the music's kind of the same, the color's the same. They come in, they put their stuff down, they do the workout, they leave. You know, people have been with you for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. That can be a little bit boring, a little bit monotonous, and can get them into repetition fatigue. So sometimes you just need to change the colors on your wall, move the equipment around, get new equipment, change the workouts, and change the coach they're working with, change up the music, just change different stuff so that they're not coming in there and doing the same thing every single training session. Because you may not realize it, But they're going to realize that doing that 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road where they're kind of doing the same thing. And repetition fatigue can actually be a huge thing why people are not, re-signing at your gyms. I also am a big believer of breaking up threads within your gym. And this is a big idea that you probably heard if you guys ever heard Tom talk is, I don't do it quite to the excess that Tom does it. Tom's idea of breaking up threads is like firing every single person in your gym every 3 years and just totally rebuilding stuff and going all crazy. I don't necessarily believe in that, but we all know that sometimes there are employees that have been there for a long time that maybe aren't working as hard as they should be and maybe have gotten a little bit comfortable, a little bit complacent. Sometimes it is time to move on from those type of people if you really are trying to grow the gym and get it to the next level. So I am a big believer of breaking up certain threads in your gym. If stuff's been the exact same for 5 years, maybe sometimes it's time to reinvent the brand a little bit, maybe switch up your colors or your logo, switch up your coaches, your program, whatever, just again to try to avoid the idea of having that repetition fatigue. I think it is important to be able to sometimes, every couple of years, break up threads and reinvent yourself a little bit. I think the obvious thing too with charging the amount that we're charging per member is you also have to really be able to invest in your members. If they're spending $400 a month and you're not investing any of that money back into them, they probably aren't going to continue to train with you and you probably aren't going to have super good retention. A couple things we do. So Giftology is this company that runs actually Tony Robbins' gift giving, and we talked about it, I heard them on a podcast. And instead of giving transactional gifts where it's like, okay, you signed up for a new membership, here's a t-shirt, you're renewing your membership, here's a water bottle. It's more about giving surprising gifts. And my wife can attest to this, I started doing this with her a little bit more and with some of our clients as well, is just picking random times. We pick 4 or 5 people a month. Random gift we're going to give them during the month is, hey, thanks for being a member. We had this lady who was from Montana at my Seattle gym, but she's actually from Montana. And we bought her this $200 cutting board that was the outline of the state of Montana. Totally random. Just gave it to her one day. She started crying when we gave it to her during the gym because it meant that much to her that we thought about her. And it was just a surprise. And you can get the people's spouses involved, ask them what kind of stuff do they like. It just goes a long way to give people more personalized, kind of surprisingly personal gifts versus transactional things where it's, okay, here's a t-shirt because you signed up for a membership. So I'm a big believer of doing more of that type of gift giving to members and just showing that you appreciate them versus just kind of the transactional stuff. You should be doing Member Appreciation Month at least once, if not twice a year. This can also be a great thing to be able to drum up more referrals and sales as well, because you can have a Bring a Buddy week, Bring a Friend week, have your friends train for free that month, whatever you guys want to do. But it's a great thing to do to be able to drum up new business, but also show your members that you appreciate them. And then the obvious one is also being able to reach out to people when they haven't been on their normal usage pattern. So we used to think that if people were not training at least 8 times a month, that's when they were going to cancel. And that is true for a lot of people. But we also have some golfers, some other guys that they may only come in once a week, and they're totally fine with coming in once a week because they're doing other stuff outside of the gym. So for us, it's more about usage patterns. And I'm going to give Nomly a little bit of a shout out here. They're not paying me to say this, but we do use them a lot. And what's cool with them is you could set certain usage patterns, things for each member. So I can say, okay, Johnny normally comes in 8 times a month. I'm going to log into Nomly, and on my dashboard, it's going to say Johnny's only came in once this month. I know he's off his normal usage pattern. And that's when we would reach out to him on Nomly via text or email and say, hey, we missed you this week. Let us know how we, let us know how we can get you back in the gym. But I do think recognizing people's normal usage patterns and reaching out to them when they're off those usage patterns is going to be very big for retention. And that may seem obvious, but we all know that most people cancel because they just haven't been coming in as much as they should be coming in. So if you can reach out to them early, and also reach out to them based off, like I said, not just a generic number like you didn't come in 8 times this month, more based off what their individual usage pattern is. That can go a long way. And a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I just got busy this week, I'll be back next week. But they just appreciate you reaching out to them and knowing that you care. And again, that's another thing that can go a long way with training style gyms versus these large box gyms, is you can connect with your members that way and really show them that you care. And that, because our goal, 24-hour fitness and those type of gyms, they make money because they don't want people to come to the gym. They want people to forget about their membership and pay or Planet Fitness pay $9.99 a month and generate revenue that way. Training gyms are different. We make all of our money off people continuing to come and retain and get results and that kind of stuff. So the last thing I want is somebody that hasn't been in 6 months because I know they're going to cancel. So we want people to come in and be engaged and be part of the community, and that's a good way to do it. And Nomly has a a great platform set up to be able to do that. If you have questions, they're outside there as well. They can help you get, but we've been using them for a while. I think this is really important. I'm going to leave this slide up here for a sec just to read. I know Tim talked a little bit about this as well. This is something that Tom really got me into like kind of early on, and I was very thankful for. But I think the biggest thing I see with clients that I am consulting with and working with is they don't have a plan in place to get out of the business. Really, if you think about it, and this might be a reality check for some of you guys, is if you're building these businesses, you're really either building it to sell it or close it. There's only really two options. It's either going to close eventually down the road or you're going to sell it. Now, maybe sometimes you have a kid or somebody that takes it over from you or whatever. That may happen, but for most part, these businesses, you're either going to sell it or you're going to close it down the road. Most of us aren't going to want to keep running a gym till we're 60, 70, 80 years old. So what's your exit plan? I think that's something that's really, really important to think about. Doesn't mean you have to build it to sell your gym tomorrow, but that should be in your thought process as you're building your gym, building your businesses. Is what am I building this for? What does it look like if it was something that I wanted to sell down the road? And the way that we look at that is through our systems and operations. And so I want to build all these gyms, whether I'm opening up one facility or I'm opening up 10, all the same, so that I can build them that are almost like a franchise, like kind of turnkey. Okay, here's this cutting edge, here's how the marketing works, here's how the retention works, here's how the operation works, so that if I did want to sell them down the road, I'm also selling them these systems, and we have operations manuals with all the stuff that we do. So here's how we do our sales, here's how we do all that kind of stuff. And we spent some time sitting down writing out like an 80 to 90 page operation manual of how everything operates within our gym, so that even if I don't want to sell it now, when I go down the road, if I did want to sell it, everything is turnkey. Okay, here's our 4 locations, here's the operations, here's how it works with the sales manual, with the training, with marketing, with all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you necessarily have to go that in depth, but if you are trying to scale and open up multiple locations, this is key, because you have to be able to take what you're doing in one location and replicate in the next location, and not be the person that's going back and forth and putting out different fires because you didn't have the right systems in place to start when you opened up that second facility. So whether you open up 1 or 10 locations, I am a big believer of having the right systems and operations in place to be able to just have everything be turnkey. And then the benefit of that, obviously, is if you do go to sell these down the road, they're going to be worth a lot more money if you can sell them with, here's how we do our sales and our operations. And then you also, as the manager, don't have to be the one or the owner that's doing everything day to day as well if you were to sell it. Last thing I want to throw in, just kind of as a bonus item here as we wrap up. I know it can be kind of a lonely road as a gym owner, as far as like figuring out what are the big items I should be doing every day. You're your own boss, so sometimes it can be a little bit more challenging. And along those lines, I'm also a big believer of practicing gratitude. I know it's a little bit corny and cheesy, but I've been doing that 5-minute journal now, and my wife can attest this, for about 8 or 9 years now. I used to write it out, and now I do it on my phone. And I have, like, first of all, I have some like ADD organizational issues. Like, I was the kid when it was Christmas, I'd open up my presents and then I'd like immediately organize them by like size and that kind of stuff. So I have some deep-rooted organizational issues. But outside of that, the 5-minute journal has really helped me just practice gratitude every day. I looked at it this morning. I've done it now for 2,800 days in a row, every single day. And so what it does for me is just really helps me get in the lens of what are the things that I'm grateful for? Why am I doing this? What, just put me in the lens of gratitude for the day. And the other cool thing about the 5-minute journal is what it helps me organize my day too, or like, what are the big 3 things that I need to get done today? Because like I said, as a gym owner, sometimes it can be challenging, or you get distracted into stuff that maybe isn't as meaningful and stuff that you should be getting done. It's just a good way to organize it. And then I'm a big believer of kind of setting 1, 3, 5-year goals, tracking those, and then really boiling those down to, okay, if I'm going to get to this 1-year goal, what do I have to do this month and this week and today, and just breaking everything down. And that's the Fit Pro Planner that's up in the corner there, of just how you can kind of track your weekly, monthly to-dos and all that kind of stuff. And then, as I mentioned before, I'm a big believer of tracking your numbers. Those are notebooks of all of our numbers going back to 2015, which again is more on me, just having some organizational issues. But I am a big believer of just tracking everything and having all that organized as well. But these are just, I guess you could call them productivity tools, or things that really just help me as a business owner operating multiple locations to be able to kind of stay on track with what my goals and long-term vision are. So I used to come to these conferences a lot, especially this one, and I would take in all this information. I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm fired up. I'm gonna go change the world on Monday. I'm gonna do all this stuff. And I wouldn't do shit after I got back from doing it because I'd be so overwhelmed and I wouldn't know what to focus on. So I think the biggest way to break that down is just think about all the stuff we talked today, which was a million things, but think about some of these inefficiencies, or even if you haven't opened up your own gym yet and you're thinking about it, where can I start? Where's an issue that I need to like get dialed in, sales, leads, whatever it is. But just pick one thing out of the list. Pick one thing you can get better at and build a game plan to be able to work on that on Monday, because otherwise you're gonna go through all these business talks, these training talks, information overload. You're gonna go home Monday fired up, and then you're not gonna do anything about it because you don't have a game plan in place. So sometimes it's just easiest to start small, pick one thing, pick one area you can improve, and build a game plan for that on Monday and be able to attack that, and then at least have actionable items that you're gonna be able to get from this conference and improving your business and stuff. And second to last slide, I'm a big believer in going to the social, so go to social tomorrow night. The reason I say that is because I think it's great to come here and learn from different presenters and all that kind of stuff, but what is really cool about Perform Better is you can also talk to these presenters at the social and hang out with them, and like that's how I was very fortunate to get linked up with Tom and Rick and have them be able to help me through this business journey. Is I met them at seminars like this, we'd go out, we'd grab a drink, have dinner, stuff like that. That to me is 10 times more valuable than anything I'm gonna teach you today, is building those relationships and being able to find those mentors and people that you can network with and be able to help you. And that starts with just hanging out and meeting people at the social. So don't stay in your room and do nothing. Go to the social, have fun, meet people, meet mentors. And then I got my information here real quick. So if any of you guys would like to follow up and just need a little bit of help with your business, this is not a ploy or anything. It really is a free 15-minute, may take an hour, I don't really care, call that if you guys want to text FitBiz to that number, it'll link you right to my calendar. We can set up a call. I'm happy to hop on a call with you guys. The reason I do that is because that's what Tom and Rick did for me. I think that's how people get better in this industry, is having mentors, having consultants that you work with. It's free of charge, just a way for us to hop on a call and say, hey, how can I help you? What are the inefficiencies that you need help with that I can help with, lead generation or marketing or staffing or talking you off the ledge, whatever it may be. Got my website right there that has a bunch of videos and stuff, just business content. And then I'm always available on email. I'm on email all the time. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you need any help with just setting up like that operations manual, whatever, I can send you some of our stuff, whatever. I'm here to help. I will stick around here afterwards and answer some questions too. We probably have maybe 2 or 3 minutes. We can answer a few group questions as well, but I'm happy to stick around in the back, and most people have questions once we're done here, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in the back too. But real quick, before we wrap up here, are there any just like general group questions that anybody has, since we have about 2 minutes?
In terms of undervaluing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
how would you suggest, like, what's the best way to, if you have a client that you've been working with for 3 years and you gave them a discount at the beginning and you continued that discount the whole time?
Yeah, that's a slippery slope. I think we've actually gone back and forth now. We've kind of messed up before where we tried to do price increases to some current members that have been with us for a long time. And I actually, looking back on it, I think that's actually kind of the wrong way to do it. I think it should be, let's say you need to increase your prices. Okay, starting day one, all new members that sign up are paying this price. Leave those people alone, unless it's like crazy and you're just like, they're paying like $10 a set or something. If they've been a loyal, long-time member and you just happen to cut them a deal at the beginning, probably just let those people go and let them be long-time members, and then start the new price point with new members starting on Monday, like right away. But that's a hard thing to do, and we've made the mistake of doing that, and then it kind of salters the relationship a little bit. So as long as you don't have a million of those people, I think you leave those people alone, raise rates for new members starting Monday. Okay. Yep.
Let's say you're going to open up a gym, you're a trainer, how many staff do you need?
Yeah.
How many other trainers do you need to start in order to fill a schedule?
Yep.
Do you have enough offerings?
Yeah.
And what do you need in terms of?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say for these type of training gyms, most training gyms, you're probably going to need around $200,000 or so to start, just to be, because the thing you have to look at, depends on the area, but you have to look at your expenses. Most gyms aren't going to be able to break even until at least 6 months. So you have to have enough runway of your expenses to be able to lose money for the first 6 months, even if you're a good trainer and you know what you're doing. Staffing wise, ideally, like when we started, we had about 4 coaches at each location. Our training gyms are anywhere between like 4 to 6 coaches. I'd recommend having 3 or 4 coaches at least to start so that you're not the one doing all of the training, and that's going to go into your startup costs and having to have probably $150,000 to $200,000 in the bank to start. I can talk more about offline here too about how you raise that type of money. We actually, for our first location, we raised all of our money to start through clients. So we had clients, a couple of them that did prepaid training that burnt off over time, a couple of them that just did 5-year loans for us, but we were able to do all of the money we needed, the $200,000 to start our first facility, all through client funding. So, but you can, there's also Montana, we did SBA. There's lots of SBA options for that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, probably 3 to 4 coaches to start, I would say at least. One kind of manager, admin that's doing sales, operations, that kind of stuff. Yep.
With your trials, do you charge more or less?
That's a good question. We try to make it not super discounted off our normal thing. So let's say like our average semi-private is like $40 to $50 a month. Or 40 to $50 a session, let's say, for semi-private. We'll try to make our trial like right around that. So we might do like 3 sessions for $149 or 6 sessions for $299 or something like that. It can be slightly discounted, but that's a very good question because you don't want people during the trial to be paying $10 a session and then you try to sell them like, oh, now all of a sudden it works out to like $50 a session. That can be a huge jump for people. So it should be fairly close. No, we do everything, well, yes. So our regular memberships, everything's monthly, so it's, $359 for 8 sessions or whatever. So we don't market as much the price per session, but what that equivalates to will be around what we're doing for the trial. And the trials we tend to do, because that's what most people are used to saying, is like 3 sessions for $99 or 3 sessions for $149, or sometimes we'll just say a 2-week trial. But yeah, sometimes we will have to have trials that are more based off the session like that.
Are they getting unlimited trainings, or are they getting a 2-a-week?
We usually have people to do 3 per week because most people, that's kind of our higher end membership, is 12 sessions per month. We don't have a lot of people that train more than 12 times a month. So our 12 session a month is $429 a month. So, and then our 8 session is $359, and pretty much everybody does somewhere between 8 and 12. So that's kind of where I get that like $370 to $380 average membership for us. What's that?
Those are hour-long sessions?
Yeah, hour-long, 4 people per hour. Yeah. But if you look at it with the semi-private, let's say one-on-one, let's say I can charge $100 for one-on-one. The easiest way to think about that is, okay, I have one person in, I'm making $100 for that hour. If I can on average charge about $45 to $50 a session for semi-private, and now I have 4 people in, now I'm making $200 an hour versus $100 an hour. That's why I'm a big believer of the semi-private. That being said, you have to make sure your schedule's busy and you're not charging semi-private and training 1 person per hour, but that's your job as the owner to market and get the gym full, so, or your staff. But any other, I think we're right on time. Or any other questions? Oh, yep. Sorry, go ahead.
How do you calculate the pay structure for your coaches? Like, for example, if we do a personal training session at my gym, it's a 60-40 split. So how would you calculate the pay rate for coaches for semi-private?
Me as a gym owner, I don't want anything to do with splits because I believe it's my job to get people in the door, and then my coaches are there just to service that product. So we pay everybody just a baseline hour rate. The benefit of that is that if for some reason they don't have anybody to train that hour or during their breaks or whatever, they're getting paid for that shift straight through no matter what. So it's not going to be like a split shift where it's you train at 6 and 7, then you don't get paid for 3 hours, then you train at 11 and 12, and then you don't get paid. So we have staff work 7 hours. They're getting paid X amount per hour for that 7 hours, no matter how much training they're doing during that hour. And then our goal with our coaches, if it's somebody that I want to keep long term, I usually try to get them from salary or hourly to salary within 6 to 12 months. And then when they're on salary, they also have a bonus structure in place based off whatever other stuff they're working on, sales or marketing. I'm the wrong person to ask about like splits and that kind of stuff with trainers because we just don't run that model. We have everybody be a W-2 employee, and they come in and they get paid X amount per hour. They work their shift, and then ideally they work up to a salaried position.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? I know as soon as I go to the bathroom, I guess like 8 of you are going to follow me to the bathroom and ask me questions, but that's okay. I'm good with that.
Sorry, you just said you paid them hourly for like 7 hours, then you pay them when they're with clients or when they're not with clients?
No, so we have our semi-private schedule. They may work 7 hours. They're probably training 5.5 of those 7 hours or whatever, 5 of those hours, they're still getting paid during that whole 7-hour shift. Like let's say they get paid $30 an hour.
Any additional when
No, nothing additional unless our additional stuff comes from managers that would then be in charge of like signing people up from the trial and getting bonuses off of that. The other benefit that though is that none of our hourly trainers they don't have to get clients. Like they show up and the hour's full and they train clients and that's all they have to do. It's pretty easy. But if they want to make more money, then they'll get into like a salary role. But we don't do any type of splits or like if you train one person, you get paid more than training 4 or whatever. It's like you're showing up, we got the clients ready to go. You're getting paid X amount per hour for your whole shift. And that's what it is. Any other questions? We're good. Okay, sweet. Well, I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for sticking around.